What if I told you that something as simple as an old gallon could turn into a breathtaking vertical garden wall? In this video, you'll discover how waste can be reshaped into beauty, creating green towers, living walls, and magical garden corners that look like they've been taken straight from a European fairy tale. Welcome to Backyard Fortune. Here, we explore how to transform everyday materials into outdoor wonders. This video comes with timestamps, so you can skip to the ideas that inspire you most. And remember, if you have any questions or your own ideas, leave a comment below. Maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that subscribe button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. One Iron Mesh Herb Haven. Imagine stepping into a garden where every object has been given a second life, reshaped into something both practical and poetic. The first thing you notice is a simple wire fence, but on closer look, it has become a stage for living greenery. Small pots of basil, thyme, and parsley hang neatly from the mesh, their leaves catching the light as a bird perches overhead. Just beyond, the soil is rich and dark, lined with neat rows of onions, carrots, and potatoes pushing their way upward. It's more than a border, it's a reminder that even a fence can grow food, fragrance, and beauty if you let it. A butterfly drifts across lavender nearby, and the scene feels alive, effortless, and inspiring. As you continue, the path brings you to something unexpected, rows of old iron forms arched carefully over beds of herbs and flowers. These curves, once perhaps part of discarded household items, now serve as protective tunnels and garden borders. They give structure and shape, offering shade and a frame for mint, rosemary, and daisies to flourish beneath. The cobblestone walkway beside them glows in the evening sun, while tall sunflowers smile above the horizon. It's a marriage of function and charm. These arches guard tender plants while creating an enchanting rhythm along the path. Sometimes the simplest recycled ideas hold the deepest elegance. Further on, another surprise awaits, a vertical wall of greenery built entirely from reused mesh pockets. Each pocket cradles something different, basil spilling in waves of green, strawberries blushing red among their leaves, onions and chives standing tall and proud. The structure not only defines the garden's edge but also transforms it into a living pantry, practical and abundant. Beneath the wall, rows of marigolds flare in orange and gold, their color a lively contrast to the deep greens above. And just behind, apple trees stretch overhead, heavy with fruit, completing the sense of plenty. Here the garden is not just a place of beauty, but of nourishment, a layered tapestry of food and flowers woven together with thought and care. What ties these ideas together is the way they invite possibility. A mesh panel that might have ended up as scrap becomes a border that grows herbs and welcomes pollinators. Old iron can bend itself into new roles, protecting young plants while adding rhythm to the garden. Even the most modest materials, like recycled mesh or fabric, can carry the weight of an entire harvest wall. These transformations whisper a lesson that creativity doesn't always mean buying new, but seeing the hidden potential in what you already have. In the end, a garden like this feels more than handmade, it feels storied, as if every corner tells you something about patience, care, and the quiet magic of giving objects another chance to serve. And for anyone watching, the inspiration is simple and clear. With a bit of imagination, your garden fence can be more than a boundary. It can be alive, fragrant, and endlessly useful. Two, bottle bloom border. In the soft light of morning, even the simplest things can feel extraordinary. Look closely at the row of pastel-colored bottles standing in the soil, and you'll see more than just plastic. Each one has been reborn as a small cradle for life, roots stretching down through clear walls, marigolds lifting their bright heads, daisies swaying gently beside tender carrots. The bottles catch the sunlight like tiny glass gems, glowing in mint, lavender, and sky blue. Just behind them, rows of onions and corn rise proudly, while butterflies drift lazily above tulips and lavender. What might have been waste has become a border alive with color and flavor, a gentle reminder that beauty can spring from the most overlooked materials. Further along the path, another transformation sparkles in the afternoon light. Bottles of green and blue glass, planted upside down in neat rows, form a whimsical edge that gleams like a string of jewels. They mark the border between cobblestone path and soil, catching every ray of sunlight and reflecting it like water. Between them, strawberry plants push out tender leaves, rosemary adds its fragrance to the air, and cabbages unfold their wide, green arms. Bees hum softly among wildflowers nearby, turning the whole scene into a gentle symphony of color, scent, and sound. The secret lies not in the perfection of the bottles but in their placement, their rhythm, and the way they invite nature to join the design. And then, in the quiet embrace of an orchard heavy with oranges, another idea takes shape. Plastic bottles, dark and sturdy, are buried side by side to form a zigzag border, each one filled with soil and crowned with bright geraniums and violets. Their blossoms flare red, purple, and white against the green of the orchard, creating a living ribbon that ties the garden bed to the trees beyond. The bottles themselves, once destined for the discard pile, now stand as sentinels, both practical and enchanting. They hold earth, anchor flowers, and lend structure to a space that might otherwise fade into the background. These borders do more than separate one part of the garden from another. They show us that with imagination, even the humblest objects can become vessels of beauty and nourishment. They keep roots safe, attract pollinators, and guide the eye like lines of poetry written in soil and bloom. And the most inspiring part is how simple they are to recreate. Paint a bottle, turn one upside down, cut another open, and let it hold a seed. In time, each bottle tells its own story, not of what it was, but of what it has become. Three, chain vineyard fence. There is something profoundly grounding about seeing strength and delicacy woven together in the garden. A row of wooden posts stands sturdy in the earth, but what connects them is not the usual rope or wire, it is the thick, weathered chain of a ship's past life. Now, those heavy iron links cradle young grapevines, the green leaves catching afternoon light, clusters of grapes spilling low, and marigolds glowing bright beneath. It is a reminder that even the most rugged materials can become frames for growth, where bees hum steadily and the scent of herbs drifts on the breeze. Move a little closer and the idea deepens. Here, the chain has been polished but still carries its ruggedness proudly. It drapes in a graceful arc above rows of carrots and potatoes pushing from the soil, parsley softening the earth's surface, and kiwi vines weaving their way through the gaps in the iron. The light shifts through the leaves, scattering dappled patterns across a cobblestone path lined with wildflowers. There is contrast, but not conflict. The chain speaks of resilience, the blossoms of gentleness, and together they tell a story of balance. And then, as the day softens into evening, a vineyard fence takes on its most magical form. Heavy ship chains, now draped between solid stone pillars, support not only grapevines but also passion fruit, their weighty orbs glowing against the backdrop of a golden sky. The garden beyond is abundant with cabbages, corn, and lavender, each bathed in the amber light of sunset. Butterflies move effortlessly between the leaves, while sparrows rest on the cool iron links. Here, the fence becomes more than boundary. It is architecture and artistry, protection and poetry, a frame for a living tapestry. What makes these ideas worth carrying home is their simplicity. A chain that once held ships steady against the sea now steadies vines against the wind. Anchoring it between posts or stone pillars requires little more than vision and strength, but the result is transformative, a fence that is not only useful but inspiring. If you have an old length of chain, you have more than metal. You have the chance to grow a vineyard, to support fruit, to mark out a garden border that feels like it belongs in a hidden corner of southern Europe. Four, rustic table planter wall. When you step into this garden, you notice something curious, a table that no longer serves meals but instead offers life. An old iron frame, once forgotten, has been reborn as a layered planter wall. On its surface, basil, parsley, and strawberries grow neatly, their leaves trembling in the soft breeze, while vines twine around its legs, reclaiming every curve of the metal. Behind it, tidy rows of carrots and onions rise from the soil, their green tops forming lines of promise. The golden glow of sunlight slipping through apple branches above makes the whole corner feel like a hidden nook in a European garden, where practicality blends with enchantment. Elsewhere, a different story unfolds with a table weathered by rust. Its metal frame is rough, its surface marked by years, yet now it stands proudly in a cobblestone courtyard. Rows of lavender, mint, and baby tomato plants rest on its shelves, spilling fragrance into the air. Around it, terracotta pots frame the scene, and corn stalks sway gently as if to guard this new sanctuary. Dew clings to the leaves in the morning light, catching sparks of silver. Bees hum lazily in the fragrance, and the table, once ordinary, has become a stage for abundance and peace. It is proof that even the most unpolished pieces, when placed with care, can create a corner of paradise. And then there is a softer touch, a table painted in pale cream and teal, its surfaces holding blooms in pots and greens in orderly rows below. Lettuce, herbs, and even potatoes nestle in the lower shelves, while tulips and daisies surround the scene in bursts of color. Birds gather at its edge, curious and calm, while butterflies drift across the flowers. The effect is almost dreamlike, a piece of furniture transformed into a fairy tale wall of life. It is not just practical storage for plants, but a storybook frame for a garden that feels alive with harmony. The lesson is simple yet profound. What once carried weight or gathered dust can be given a new role. A table may no longer hold plates, but it can still serve, this time by feeding the eyes, the air, and the soil. With only a little imagination and patience, such transformations are within reach. In this lies the magic of upcycling. It is not about disguising age but celebrating it, giving every scratch and mark a second chapter. And when placed under the open sky, that story continues to grow, one leaf and blossom at a time. Five, vintage cabinet garden corner. In a quiet garden corner, forgotten furniture finds a second life as living, breathing works of art. Imagine a simple wooden cabinet, its drawers no longer holding linens or papers, but rich, dark soil bursting with basil, parsley, and mint. The herbs spill gently from their compartments, glowing under golden sunlight. On the top, bright marigolds and strawberry pots add a cheerful splash of color, while ivy drapes down the sides, softening the structure into something that feels both rustic and magical. It's as though the cabinet itself has become part of the garden's rhythm, breathing life into every drawer. Elsewhere, a pastel-painted cabinet stands proudly against a cobblestone wall, its soft blue paint faded by time but full of charm. Each shelf carries something different: pots of onions, rows of geraniums, violets that seem to smile in the breeze. The lower drawers cradle baby carrots and crisp lettuce, their greens fresh and lively. Around the base, tulips and daisies sway, and small birds perch on the cabinet top, curious and unafraid. It doesn't just look like a garden feature, but like a storybook illustration that has stepped into reality, showing how practicality and whimsy can live side by side. Under the shade of an apple tree, another old cabinet becomes something extraordinary. Its doors stand open wide, no longer hiding storage, but instead displaying shelves of fresh potatoes and garlic bulbs, side by side with vivid flowers in orange, red, and purple. Vines climb the frame, weaving their way through the old wood as if reclaiming it. The sunlight filters through the apple branches above, scattering light and shadow across the cabinet, until it feels less like an object placed in the garden and more like a natural part of it. Standing there, you might feel as if you've stumbled into an outdoor pantry in a European fairytale village, one where food, flowers, and imagination live together in harmony. Six, chopping board veggie edge. In the soft glow of morning light, even the humblest household object can become something extraordinary. Old wooden chopping boards, once used in kitchens, now stand upright in the soil, transformed into a playful border for a garden bed. Their painted floral patterns and carved details catch the sunlight, turning each board into a piece of rustic art. Between them, carrots push up their green tops, onions swell at the base, and parsley grows with quiet confidence. Nearby, tulips and marigolds sway, weaving together food and flowers in a way that feels both practical and enchanting, like a secret European cottage garden come alive. Step closer, and you might find another variation: chopping boards painted in gentle pastels of green and cream, standing side by side like old friends in a cheerful row. Behind them, potatoes, beans, and basil grow strong, their leaves rustling gently in the breeze. Lavender and daisies sprout in between, filling the air with fragrance. There is something comforting about this scene, as if these weathered boards, once forgotten in kitchens, had chosen a new purpose: protecting, decorating, and guiding the growth of fresh life. And then, in another corner of the garden, the chopping boards appear once more, this time in different sizes, standing like miniature walls. Some hold tiny flower pots, others are decorated with vines of ivy weaving their way across the wood. Behind them, tall corn stalks rise proudly, while strawberries and lettuce blanket the soil below. Apple trees filter golden light across the boards, softening their edges, until the whole border looks less like a man-made creation and more like a natural part of a fairy tale village, where every detail, from the vegetables in the soil to the carved wooden patterns, seems to whisper stories of creativity and renewal. Seven, brick blossom border. In the golden warmth of morning, the simplest of materials can take on a storybook glow. Old red bricks, placed in a playful zigzag line, form a border that feels both rustic and artistic. Between their cracks, tiny blossoms emerge, white daisies, delicate alyssum, softening the sharp lines with hints of color. Behind them, rows of carrots and onions rise fresh from the soil, while lavender, marigolds, and tulips stretch upward, painting the garden edge in layers of texture and fragrance. The sunlight makes the bricks gleam, not as discarded rubble, but as small rustic jewels holding the garden together. In another part of the garden, the bricks are worn with time, their surfaces softened by moss and age. They lie low, encircling a patch of fertile soil where potatoes, beans, and parsley grow with quiet determination. Butterflies float lazily above the blossoms, and little birds perch on the edges as if they've claimed the bricks for themselves. There's nothing fancy here, and yet it feels profoundly magical, proof that even the humblest corner can become a fairy tale when nature is allowed to weave its threads through human hands. Further along, the creativity deepens. Bricks are tilted and angled like waves frozen in mid-motion, creating a border that is playful and alive. From the spaces between them, violets peek out in shades of purple, while wild strawberries spill their red fruits like tiny surprises. Beyond the border, kiwi vines climb a weathered trellis, while apple trees cast gentle shade across the scene. In this light, the bricks no longer look like construction leftovers but like companions to the plants, an artistic, functional design that belongs perfectly in a hidden European orchard. (8) Rustic roof tile fence. Imagine walking through a cobblestone path where the garden itself seems to hum with quiet harmony. Along the edges, instead of conventional fencing, old terracotta roof tiles rise from the soil, their curved forms catching the golden glow of the sun. What once sheltered homes from rain now frames beds of carrots, onions, lavender, and strawberries, each plant thriving within the embrace of these rustic borders. There's a certain poetry in how these tiles, weathered by time, find new life in the garden, soft orange tones blending effortlessly with tulips nearby, creating a view that feels both humble and enchanting. Further along, the same tiles take on a more whimsical rhythm, stacked in overlapping waves like the scales of a dragon. Between the crevices, mint and parsley spring forth, filling the air with fragrance. Moss nestles into the curves, softening the clay, while butterflies flutter above daisies and tall corn stalks sway behind. It is a reminder that beauty often emerges when practicality meets imagination. What appears as discarded material becomes a fairy tale border that nurtures food, herbs, and pollinators all at once. And then, in another corner, the tiles gather in circles to cradle bursts of color. Geraniums, violets, and wild strawberries spill from within, glowing gently as bees drift lazily from flower to flower. Nearby, kiwi vines climb wooden posts, their tendrils reaching skyward as though eager to join the story of rebirth. It is a simple yet profound truth. Every object, no matter how ordinary or forgotten, carries the potential for renewal. With a little creativity, even roof tiles can whisper a new chapter, one where gardens become both sanctuary and storyteller. (9) Fridge door garden gate. There is something delightfully unexpected about seeing an old fridge door reborn as a garden gate. What once stood in a kitchen, humming quietly in the background of daily life, now greets you at the entrance to a flourishing garden. On one door, white and simple, Planter boxes cradle fresh parsley and lettuce, their leaves glowing in the morning sun. Gardening gloves and tools hang neatly from hooks, ready for use, while ivy curls gently around the frame. Tulips and daisies bloom at its base, softening the structure and making it feel less like a gate and more like an invitation into a storybook world. Another door, painted in a soothing pastel mint, carries its own charm. Shelves are tucked into its panels, displaying pots of marigolds, herbs, and strawberries like treasures. Above, grapevines climb and weave, hinting at abundance beyond the gate. Birds rest lightly at the top, as if they too have made this place their home. The gate doesn't just separate one space from another, it becomes a living wall, a tiny stage where both plants and tools are beautifully displayed, practical yet whimsical at the same time. And then there is the gate that feels like a true garden hub, framed in wood, lined with terracotta pots of basil, mint, and strawberries, with tools hanging in order across its surface. It opens onto a cobblestone path framed with marigolds and lavender, leading you into orchards heavy with fruit. Here, the fridge door is no longer just a gate, it's a working pantry, a tool station, and an artwork all in one. It embodies the very heart of creative gardening, transforming what no longer serves its old purpose into something new, useful, and beautiful. $10-gallon green wall. At the heart of any garden lies not just soil and seeds, but imagination, the ability to take what seems ordinary and breathe new life into it. Here, recycled water gallons have been transformed into a living sculpture, rising proudly like a green tower under the morning sun. Each opening becomes a small cradle of life, holding basil, parsley, or strawberries, their leaves spilling over like soft waterfalls of green. Lavender blooms at the base, and as the sunlight streams through apple trees and tall corn stalks behind, the tower glows with a warmth that feels both rustic and enchanting, like a piece of countryside art created by hand. Elsewhere, the same idea unfolds into a grand wall, with dozens of water gallons painted in soft cream and pastel green. Each one is a small garden of its own, lettuce, carrots, and onions thriving in compact beds. Butterflies find their way between the planters, and bees hum steadily as if they, too, are caretakers of this magical wall. The cobblestone path nearby, lined with tulips and marigolds, makes it feel as if you're walking through a fairytale orchard, where even the smallest corner is alive with color and fragrance. What was once destined for waste has been given a second life as a structure of beauty and abundance. Then comes the playful pyramid of stacked gallons, their black curves forming a bold silhouette against the evening sky. Birds perch happily on a wire above, watching over the herbs, flowers, and vines tumbling from each container. Potatoes and wild strawberries grow nearby, tying the vertical garden into the larger rhythm of the soil. The golden glow of sunset makes the whole structure seem like a stage set in a hidden European village, where practicality and poetry merge in perfect harmony. What makes these ideas so inspiring is not just their beauty but their accessibility. With a few discarded water gallons, a simple cutting tool, and a touch of creativity, anyone can replicate them. Vertical gardening saves space, keeps plants within easy reach, and brings structure and height to any outdoor corner. More importantly, it's a gentle reminder that even what we discard has potential, waiting to be reshaped into something that nourishes both the earth and the soul. And that's how discarded gallons can be transformed into stunning garden walls, saving space, reusing materials, and bringing your backyard to life in the most magical way. Which design inspired you the most today? Let me know in the comments below. I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit like, share it with a friend who loves gardening, and subscribe to Backyard Fortune for more creative DIY garden ideas. Together, we can turn ordinary waste into extraordinary beauty. See you in the next one.